Most welcome viewers to my channel. Here is the interesting story for you. If you like it, please comment and subscribe my channel. The mining station Kepler 7 floated in the darkness between 3 dying stars. Its metal corridors buzzed with the voices of a dozen different alien species, all working together to strip valuable minerals from the asteroid field. The station manager, a hulking Vrex named Karath, watched the security feeds from his office high above the main deck. Another human just arrived, his assistant Zilka said, her 4 arms typing rapidly on the control panel. Transport vessel just docked at Bay 12. Karath's massive head turned toward the screen. His yellow eyes focused on the small figure walking down the ship's ramp. The human was average height, maybe a bit shorter than most. Brown hair, simple clothes, carrying just one small bag. Nothing special about him at all. What's his work assignment? Karath asked. Deep shaft mining. Level 15. The dangerous section where we lost 3 Krogans last month. Karath laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Perfect. Another soft human who thinks he could do real work. How long do you think he'll last? Maybe 2 days if he's lucky, Zilka replied. Humans always quit when the work gets hard. The human on the screen stopped at the security checkpoint. He handed over his papers to the guard, a 7-foot-tall Thurian with claws that could slice through steel. The guard barely looked at the documents before waving him through. His name is Marcus Chun, Zilka read from the file. Age 34. Previous experience listed as various mining operations. No special certifications. No military background. Just another desperate human looking for work. Karath nodded. Send him straight to the deep shafts. Don't waste time with orientation. If he survives the first shift, maybe we'll consider keeping him. Marcus walked through the station's main corridor, ignoring the stares from other workers. Aliens of all shapes and sizes watched him pass. Some whispered to each other in languages he didn't recognize. Others just shook their heads, already writing him off as another failed human. The mining station was built like a giant wheel, with living quarters on the outer rim and work areas toward the center. Marcus found his assigned room without asking for directions. It was small, barely big enough for a bed and storage locker. The previous occupant had left behind some personal items, a broken communicator, some alien food packets, and a note written in Standard Galactic. Good luck, human. You'll need it. Jorik, Marcus crumpled up the note and threw it away. He unpacked his single bag, hanging up 2 sets of work clothes and placing a small metal box on the shelf beside his bed. The box was unremarkable, just brushed steel with no visible markings. Anyone looking at it would assume it contained personal items or tools. A loud bell rang through the station, signaling the start of the next work shift. Marcus grabbed his gear and headed for the mining levels. The corridor leading down was filled with workers, mostly large and powerful species built for heavy labor. Krogans with their thick hides and massive strength. Thorians with their 4 arms and natural resistance to radiation. Vex workers with their ability to see in complete darkness. They all looked at Marcus like he was a mistake waiting to happen. The mine supervisor was a Krogan named Brutus. He stood 8 feet tall and weighed at least 400 pounds of solid muscle. His gray skin was covered in scars from years of dangerous work. When he saw Marcus approaching with the other workers, he spit on the ground. Great. Another weak human. Listen up, small thing. This is level 15. The rock here is harder than your bones. The dust will choke you. The machinery will crush you if you're not careful. Most humans last maybe 1 shift before they run crying back to their comfortable worlds. Marcus said nothing. He just picked up his assigned equipment, a plasma cutter, protective gear, and a mining cart, and waited for instructions. Your job is simple, Brutus continued. Follow the main tunnel about 2 kilometers. There's a collapsed section that needs clearing. Dangerous work. Sharp rocks, unstable ceiling, toxic gas pockets. We've had 3 workers die there in the past month. All of them stronger than you. The other miners laughed. A massive Thorian named Grek stepped forward. Boss, maybe we should give a human easier work. Cleaning duty or something. He's too small for the dangerous stuff. No, Brutus replied. He wanted mining work, he gets mining work. If he can't handle it, that's his problem. Marcus strapped on his protective gear and activated his plasma cutter. The tool hummed with energy, its blue flame hot enough to melt through solid rock. He checked his air filtration system and headed into the tunnel. The main shaft stretched into darkness. Emergency lights cast long shadows on the rough-cut walls. The air was thick with dust and the smell of burnt metal. As Marcus walked deeper, he could hear the sounds of other miners working, the whine of cutting tools, the crash of falling rocks, the shouts of workers calling to each other. After 20 minutes of walking, he reached the collapsed section. It was worse than he expected. Tons of rock had fallen from the ceiling, completely blocking the tunnel. The debris was unstable, shifting and settling with every small vibration. Toxic yellow gas leaked from cracks between the stones. Marcus studied the collapse for several minutes, walking around it and examining the structure. He pulled out a small scanner from his belt and took readings of the rock composition, gas concentrations, and structural stress points. To anyone watching, it would look like he was just trying to figure out how to start working. He activated his plasma cutter and began cutting into the debris. But instead of the random hacking that most miners would do, Marcus worked with precision. Each cut was exactly where it needed to be. He removed rocks in a specific sequence, always maintaining the structural integrity of the pile while clearing a path through. As he worked, other miners occasionally passed by on their way to different areas. They would glance at his progress and shake their heads. "Slow," one Krogan muttered. "Human's going to take weeks to clear that mess." But Marcus wasn't slow. He was careful. Each rock he removed was exactly the right one. Each cut was perfectly placed. While it looked like he was barely making progress, he was actually working faster and more efficiently than anyone else could have managed. 3 hours into the shift, Brutus came to check on him. The mine's supervisor expected to find Marcus either dead, injured, or crying for help. Instead, he found the human calmly working his way through the collapse. Nearly a quarter of the debris had been cleared, and the remaining pile was stable and safe. "How are you doing this?" Brutus demanded. "This should have taken at least 3 workers a full week." Marcus looked up from his work. "Just following standard procedure for unstable debris removal." "What's standard procedure?" "There's no standard procedure for this kind of work. There's if you know what you're doing." Brutus stared at the human for a long moment. The work Marcus had done was perfect. Every cut was clean. Every removed rock had been placed in the optimal location to support the remaining structure. It was the kind of precision work that took years of experience to master. "Where did you learn to do this?" Brutus asked. "Various mining operations." Marcus replied, the same vague answer that was in his employment file. Something in the human's tone made Brutus uncomfortable. There was a confidence there that didn't match his unremarkable appearance. But before the supervisor could ask more questions, an alarm started blaring through the mine. Red warning lights flashed in the corridors. The voice of station manager Karath echoed from speakers throughout the facility. "All miners report to emergency stations immediately. We have a major structural failure in Section C. Cave-in has trapped 6 workers. All rescue teams respond now." Brutus looked at Marcus. "Cave-in means dangerous rescue work. You should head back to your quarters. This is no job for a human. I'll help with the rescue." "No, you're not qualified for emergency operations. Go back to your room and wait for the all clear." Marcus set down his plasma cutter and walked past Brutus toward the emergency area. "I'm going to help. Human, I gave you an order." But Marcus was already disappearing into the main tunnel, moving faster than Brutus had ever seen a human move. The mine supervisor was left standing alone, wondering what he had just witnessed. The emergency site was chaos. Section C had suffered a complete ceiling collapse. Tons of rock had fallen, sealing off a side tunnel where 6 miners were trapped. Rescue teams were setting up heavy equipment, but everyone knew it would take hours to break through safely. Station manager Karath stood at the command post, coordinating the rescue efforts. His massive frame dominated the area as he barked orders at the rescue teams. We need heavy plasma cutters on the main blockage. Get the structural engineers down here to assess the ceiling stability. And keep those support beams coming. I don't want another collapse while we're working. The trapped miners were in communication through a narrow crack in the debris. They reported 2 serious injuries and limited air supply. Time was running out. Marcus arrived at the scene and began studying the collapse. Like at his work site, he walked around the debris pile, taking scanner readings and examining the rock structure. Several aliens noticed him, but assumed he was just another curious worker. What's the assessment? Karath asked his chief engineer, a brilliant Ziltharian named Vex. Bad, Vex replied. The ceiling is completely unstable. If we try to blast through, we might bring down the entire section. We need to clear the debris piece by piece, but that will take 8 to 10 hours. The trapped miners don't have that much air. Karath's fists clenched in frustration. There has to be another way. There is. Everyone turned to see Marcus standing behind them. The small human held up his scanner, showing detailed readings of the collapse. Karath's yellow eyes blazed with anger. Who let this human into the emergency area? Get him out of here before he gets himself killed. The collapse follows a natural fracture pattern in the rock. Marcus continued, ignoring the station manager's outburst. If you remove debris in the right sequence, you can create a rescue tunnel without destabilizing the ceiling. Human, you have no idea what you're talking about, Vex said dismissively. This is advanced geological engineering. You're just a basic miner. Marcus pulled out his small metal box and opened it. Inside were tools that looked nothing like standard mining equipment. Precision instruments, advanced scanners, and devices that none of the aliens recognized. The fracture pattern runs along these stress lines, Marcus said, projecting a 3-dimensional map from his scanner. Remove rocks here, and here in sequence, and you create a stable tunnel. Total time, 90 minutes. Karath stared at the projection. It was incredibly detailed, showing stress points and structural weaknesses that their own engineers hadn't detected. How did you get this information? Vex demanded. Basic geological analysis, Marcus replied. But this wasn't basic anything. The level of detail in the scan was far beyond what any standard mining equipment could produce. And the proposed tunnel route was brilliant. It would avoid all the major stress points while providing the most direct path to the trapped miners. Even if your analysis is correct, Karath said slowly, the work would be incredibly dangerous. One mistake, and the entire ceiling comes down. Then, don't make mistakes. Marcus sealed his metal box and walked toward the debris pile. He picked up a heavy plasma cutter from the rescue equipment and began working. But his technique was unlike anything the watching aliens had ever seen. The human moved with absolute precision. Each cut was exactly where his analysis indicated. He worked quickly, but never rushed, removing rocks in the exact sequence needed to maintain structural stability. As he progressed, a tunnel began to form through the debris. The rescue teams watched in amazement. What should have been a 10-hour operation was happening in real time. The tunnel Marcus was cutting was perfectly stable, reinforced by the natural rock structure he had identified. How was he doing this? Vex whispered to Karath. I don't know, the station manager replied. But he's doing it. 93 minutes after he started, Marcus broke through to the trapped miners. Fresh air rushed through the tunnel as rescue teams moved in to evacuate the injured workers. All 6 miners were brought out alive. As the last miner was carried to the medical bay, Karath approached Marcus. The human was cleaning his tools, acting like he had just finished routine maintenance work. I want to see your employment file, Karath said. It's in the system. No, your real file. Who are you really? Marcus looked up at the massive alien. For just a moment, Karath saw something in the human's eyes that made his blood run cold. It wasn't the look of a simple miner. It was the look of someone who had done far more dangerous work than anyone realized. Just someone who knows how to handle emergencies, Marcus said. He packed up his tools and walked away, leaving Karath standing alone beside the rescue tunnel that shouldn't have been possible to create. Back in his quarters, Marcus sat on his bed and opened his metal box again. Inside, Nestled among the advanced tools was a small communicator. He activated it with a touch, and symbols appeared on the screen, not standard galactic, but something far older and more sophisticated. The message was brief, assignment proceeding as planned. Cover identity maintained. No complications detected. Marcus sent the message and closed the communicator. Tomorrow he would return to his regular mining duties, continuing to play the role of an unremarkable human worker. But the other miners would be watching him now, wondering what they had witnessed. None of them suspected the truth. Marcus Chun wasn't just a human miner looking for work. He was something far more dangerous, operating under the perfect cover of low expectations and species prejudice. The galaxy's greatest predator had learned long ago that the best camouflage wasn't invisibility. It was being exactly what everyone expected to see: harmless, unremarkable, and easy to underestimate. In the security office, Karath reviewed the footage from the rescue operation. He watched Marcus work, studying every movement and technique. The more he analyzed the recording, the more questions arose. "Zilka, run a deep background check on Marcus Chun," he ordered. "Already did, boss. His file is clean. Previous mining experience, no criminal record, no military service. Just another human looking for work." But Karatha's instincts told him something different. He had run mining operations for 15 years, worked with thousands of different species. He had never seen anyone work with the precision and knowledge that Marcus had displayed. "Pull the personnel files for every human we've employed in the last 5 years, he said. "Boss, that's over 300 files. What are you looking for?" "I don't know yet, but I want to see if there's a pattern." As Zilka began compiling the files, Karath continued watching the rescue footage. Frame by frame, he studied Marcus's movements. The human had known exactly what to do, exactly how to cut through the debris. It was the kind of expertise that took decades to develop. But Marcus Chun was only 34 years old. Even if he had started mining as a child, he couldn't have gained that level of skill through normal experience. "Boss," Zilka said, her voice strange, "you need to see this." She had pulled up employment records for human miners across multiple stations. At first glance, they all looked different names, different ages, different backgrounds. But when she overlaid the photos and ran facial recognition software, patterns began to emerge. "Look at these 3 humans," she said, highlighting files for different stations. John Smith from the Arcturus mining platform, David Jones from the Centauri Belt operation, and Robert Wilson from the Outer Rim extraction facility. The photos showed 3 different men with different hair colors and facial features. But the facial recognition software detected underlying bone structure similarities that suggested they might all be the same person using cosmetic alterations. "It gets worse," Zilka continued. "All 3 were involved in major rescue operations at their respective stations. All 3 displayed unusual expertise, and all 3 left their positions shortly after completing some kind of mission-critical work." Karath felt a chill run through his massive frame. "Show me their work assignments." John Smith was assigned to deep shaft mining at Arcturus. 2 weeks later, he single-handedly prevented a reactor meltdown that would have destroyed the entire station. David Jones was doing asteroid survey work at Centauri. He discovered and stopped a sabotage operation that would have crippled their mineral processing facility. Robert Wilson was just a basic worker at Outer Rim until pirates attacked the station. He somehow managed to disable their ship and capture the entire crew. And after each incident, they all quit their jobs and disappeared. No forwarding addresses, no references requested. Just gone. Karath stared at the files, his mind racing. If these were all the same person, then Marcus Chun wasn't just an unusually skilled miner. He was some kind of operative moving from station to station under false identities. What's his real mission here? Karath wondered aloud. "I don't know, boss. But maybe we should find out before something happens." In his quarters, Marcus was preparing for sleep when his communicator activated again. A new message had arrived, this one longer than the first. Station security beginning to investigate. Maintain cover, but prepare for accelerated timeline. Primary objective must be completed within 72 hours. Extraction team on standby. Marcus deleted the message and considered his options. He had hoped to complete his mission quietly, without attracting attention. But the rescue operation had blown his cover of incompetence. Now the station manager was asking questions. He opened a hidden compartment in his bag and pulled out another device, a scanner designed to detect specific energy signatures. He activated it and began sweeping his room for surveillance equipment. The device detected 3 hidden cameras and 2 audio pickups. Marcus smiled grimly. They were already watching him more closely. That meant his time was running out. He had come to Kepler 7 for a specific reason, but not the one anyone might suspect. Hidden deep in the station's archives was information that could change the balance of power in this entire sector of the galaxy. His mission was to retrieve that data and disappear before anyone realized what had happened. The mining job was just cover, allowing him to move freely through the station and learn its security procedures. The rescue operation had been an unfortunate complication, but it might actually help his mission. Now that station security was focused on him, they would be less likely to notice other activities. Marcus began preparing his gear for tomorrow's shift. But this time, he wouldn't be going to the mining levels. Tomorrow, he would begin the real work he had come here to do. Outside his window, the asteroid field sparkled in the light of the 3 dying stars. Soon, one way or another, his mission on Kepler 7 would be complete. And then Marcus Chun would disappear, just like John Smith, David Jones, and Robert Wilson before him. The galaxy's greatest predator was about to reveal exactly why humans should never be underestimated. But first, he had to survive long enough to complete his mission while an entire station full of aliens tried to figure out who he really was. The hunt was about to begin. Marcus woke up before the morning shift alarm. His internal clock was precise, trained through years of dangerous operations where timing meant the difference between success and death. He lay still for a moment, listening to the sounds of the station coming to life around him. Through his door, he could hear other workers moving through the corridors. Heavy footsteps of Krogans heading to their shifts. The clicking sound of Thorian claws on metal floors. Voices speaking in dozens of alien languages as the station prepared for another day of mining operations. But there was something else. Quieter footsteps in the corridor outside his room. Someone trying to move without being heard. Marcus counted at least 3 different individuals, all moving with the careful precision of security personnel. They were watching him. Marcus got dressed slowly, giving no sign that he knew about the surveillance. He pulled on his work clothes and gathered his mining equipment, just like any other day. But hidden inside his gear bag were tools that would have surprised anyone watching. The communicator buzzed softly. Another message had arrived during the night. Intelligence confirms station manager suspects your identity. Security teams have been assigned to monitor human personnel. Recommend immediate mission acceleration. Primary target is located in Archive Level 3, Section 7 Alpha. Window of opportunity closes in 48 hours. Marcus deleted the message and sealed his equipment bag. 48 hours to break into the most secure section of the station, steal classified information, and escape without anyone realizing what had happened. It was ambitious, even for someone with his skills. But humans had always been good at doing the impossible. The cafeteria was busy when Marcus arrived for breakfast. Workers from the night shift were finishing their meals while day shift personnel grabbed food before heading to their assignments. Marcus picked up a tray and moved through the line, selecting simple foods that wouldn't interfere with his performance. As he ate, he watched the security feeds displayed on monitors around the room. The cameras showed activity throughout the station: mining operations, cargo handling, ship docking procedures. But Marcus was looking for something specific: guard rotations and security protocols for the restricted levels. Mind if I sit here? Marcus looked up to see Brutus, the Krogan mine supervisor. The massive alien-scarred face was unreadable as he set down his tray across from Marcus. Free station, Marcus replied. Brutus ate in silence for several minutes, studying the human with obvious curiosity. Finally, he spoke. 27 years, I've been working mines. Seen every species in the galaxy try their hand at this work. But I've never seen anything like what you did yesterday. Just standard rescue procedures. No such thing as standard when it comes to that kind of structural collapse. What you did took advanced engineering knowledge and years of experience. Where did you really learn those skills? Marcus continued eating, showing no reaction to the questions. Various mining operations. You keep saying that. But I've worked with miners from every major operation in this sector. None of them could have done what you did. Maybe they weren't very good miners. Brutus's eyes narrowed. The Krogan's pride in his profession was well known throughout the station. Suggesting that experienced miners weren't skilled enough was a direct insult. You want to be careful making statements like that, human. Some folks might take offense. Some folks might need better training. For a moment, tension crackled between them. Brutus was twice Marcus's size and armed with natural weapons that could tear a human apart. But the human showed no fear, meeting the alien's gaze with calm confidence. Then Brutus did something unexpected. He laughed. You've got spine, I'll give you that. Most humans would be backing down by now, apologizing and trying to make peace. He leaned forward across the table. But that just makes me more curious about who you really are. Before Marcus could respond, the cafeteria's communication system activated. Station manager Karatha's voice echoed through the room. Attention, all personnel. We have received reports of suspicious activity in the lower levels. Security teams are conducting expanded patrols. All workers are required to carry identification at all times and submit to random inspections. Any unusual behavior should be reported immediately. Conversations died as workers listened to the announcement. When it finished, everyone began talking at once. Speculation and worry filled the air as aliens discussed what might be happening. Marcus finished his breakfast and stood to leave. Thanks for the conversation. This isn't over, human. I'm going to figure out your story. Good luck with that. Marcus left the cafeteria and headed toward the mining levels, but not to return to his assigned work site. Instead, he took a detour through a maintenance corridor that led to a service shaft. According to his station schematics, this shaft provided access to the restricted levels where the archives were located. The service shaft was narrow and dark, designed for automated maintenance drones rather than human workers. Marcus crawled through the cramped space, following the path he had memorized from stolen blueprints. After 20 minutes of careful movement, he reached a junction that connected to the main ventilation system. From here, he could access almost any section of the station. Marcus pulled out his scanner and began mapping the area around Archive Level 3. The device showed him guard positions, sensor locations, and security protocols in real time. What he saw wasn't encouraging. The archive level was heavily protected. Motion sensors covered every corridor. Pressure plates detected unauthorized footsteps. Thermal scanners watched for unusual heat signatures. And automated defense turrets were positioned at key checkpoints. Getting inside would require more than stealth. It would require distraction. Back on the mining levels, Brutus was coordinating the day's work assignments when his communicator buzzed. Station security wanted to speak with him about Marcus Chun. What can I tell you that's not already in his file? Brutus asked when Security Chief Varek arrived at the mining office. Varek was a saurian, 8 feet of scaled muscle with natural armor and razor-sharp claws. His species had evolved as apex predators, and he brought those hunting instincts to his security work. Manager Karath thinks your human worker might not be what he seems, Varek explained. We need to know everything about his behavior since he arrived. Brutus described the precision mining work and the rescue operation, emphasizing how unusual Marcus's skills were for someone with a stated background. And this morning he made some interesting comments about other miners not being properly trained. Almost like he was comparing them to some higher standard. What kind of higher standard? That's what worries me. He talked like he knew better training methods. Like he'd worked with people who were more skilled than anyone I've ever seen. Varick's scaled face showed concern. Could he be military? Maybe, but not regular military. The precision he showed, the knowledge of structural engineering, the way he stayed calm under pressure. That's special forces training. Elite operations. What would elite human forces want with our mining station? Brutus shook his head. I don't know, but I've got a bad feeling about this. In the ventilation system, Marcus was setting up equipment for the next phase of his mission. Small devices that looked like maintenance sensors were actually sophisticated tools designed to interfere with security systems. He placed them at key points throughout the ventilation network, creating a pathway to the archive level that would be invisible to station sensors. But the real distraction would come from somewhere else entirely. Marcus activated his communicator and sent a coded message. Within minutes, he received a response confirming that external assets were in position. A small ship had been waiting in the asteroid field for days, disguised as mining equipment. Now, it began moving toward the station. The ship's approach would trigger proximity alarms and force station security to focus on potential external threats. While they dealt with the emergency, Marcus would have a window to access the archives. He made his way through the maintenance shafts toward Archive Level 3, moving carefully to avoid the sensors he hadn't been able to disable. The stolen information he needed was stored in Section 7 Alpha, a maximum security vault that required multiple authorization codes to access. But Marcus had ways of dealing with locked doors. On the station's bridge, proximity alarms began blaring. Sensor operator Zwyx, a multi-armed Centaurian, called out coordinates to the command crew. Unknown vessel approaching from the asteroid field. Distance 12 kilometers and closing. Korath moved to the main display, his massive form blocking out the light as he studied the incoming ship. Size and configuration? Small cargo vessel, possibly modified. No response to hailing frequencies. Could be pirates, suggested Bridge Officer Malak, or smugglers trying to avoid customs inspection. Karatha's instincts were screaming that this was connected to the mysterious human miner. The timing was too convenient. Just when they were investigating Marcus Chun, an unknown ship appeared. Launch interceptor patrols. I want that ship stopped and searched before it gets within weapons range of the station. Yes, sir. Launching fighters now. As the station's defense fighters streaked toward the unknown vessel, security teams throughout Kepler 7 went to high alert. Guards left their posts to respond to emergency stations. Corridors that were normally patrolled were temporarily abandoned, including the corridor leading to Archive Level 3. Marcus emerged from the ventilation system just as the emergency alerts began. He could hear the sound of security teams running through nearby passages, all heading toward the docking bays and defensive positions. The distraction was working perfectly. Section 7 Alpha was protected by a vault door made from the strongest materials known to galactic science. It would take heavy explosives or military-grade cutting tools to break through. But Marcus wasn't planning to break anything. Instead, he pulled out a device that looked like a simple maintenance scanner. But when he connected it to the door's electronic lock, the device began analyzing the security codes in real time. Advanced quantum processing allowed it to test millions of combinations per second. The lock clicked open after 90 seconds. Inside the vault were thousands of data storage units, each containing classified information about mining operations, trade routes, political agreements, and military activities throughout this sector of space. Marcus ignored most of them, focusing on a specific storage unit labeled with symbols that most aliens wouldn't recognize. The symbols were human military codes, indicating information about Earth's deep space operations. Marcus connected his quantum processor to the storage unit and began downloading its contents. As the data flowed into his device, he read the files with growing concern. What he found was far worse than anyone had suspected. The mining station Kepler 7 wasn't just extracting minerals from asteroids. It was also serving as a secret intelligence gathering facility, collecting information about human military movements throughout this sector of space. The The station manager Karath was working with hostile alien governments to track Earth's deep space operations. But the most dangerous information was yet to come. According to the files, several alien governments were planning a coordinated attack on human colonies. They had identified what they believed were weak points in Earth's defenses, and they were preparing to exploit those weaknesses. The attack was scheduled to begin in less than 2 weeks. Marcus finished downloading the files and sealed the storage unit. He had what he came for, but now he faced a new problem. The information he had discovered changed everything about his mission. He couldn't just steal the data and disappear. He had to find a way to warn Earth about the coming attack. But first, he had to survive the next few hours. The vault door sealed behind him as he made his way back toward the ventilation system. But as he reached the access panel, he heard voices in the corridor. Security teams were returning from their emergency response, and they were conducting the random inspections that Karath had ordered. Check every room, every storage area, every maintenance access, Security Chief Eric was saying. If there's an infiltrator on this station, we're going to find him. Marcus retreated deeper into the restricted level, looking for another way out. But Archive Level 3 had been designed to prevent unauthorized access, which meant it was also very good at preventing unauthorized exits. He was trapped. Through his communicator, he could hear chatter from the fighter patrol that had intercepted the approaching ship. The vessel had turned out to be exactly what it appeared to be, a small cargo hauler with engine problems. The pilot was just looking for emergency repairs, not planning any kind of attack, which meant the distraction was over, and security attention would soon return to internal threats. Marcus found a storage room filled with archive data units and sealed himself inside. He activated his communicator and sent an emergency message to his extraction team. Mission accomplished, but situation compromised. Hostile forces planning imminent attack on human colonies. Require immediate evacuation and priority communication with Earth Command. The response came back quickly. Extraction impossible during current security alert. Maintain cover and await further instructions. Marcus closed his eyes and considered his options. He could try to fight his way out, but that would confirm everyone's suspicions and probably get him killed in the process. Or he could try to maintain his cover and find another way to escape with the vital intelligence. But there was a third option, one that was risky but might be the only way to save human lives. He could reveal enough of the truth to convince Karath that the station was in danger. If he could make the aliens believe they were targets too, they might be willing to help him get the information to Earth. It was a dangerous gamble, but sometimes the best way to hide was in plain sight. Marcus activated his communicator one more time and sent a message that would change everything. Initiating Protocol 7. Cover identity no longer viable. Beginning emergency revelation sequence. Then he deleted all traces of his activity, sealed his equipment, and prepared to become someone else entirely. In the security office, Varek was reviewing patrol reports when one of his officers called out. "Sir, we've detected an unauthorized access attempt on Archive Level 3. Someone tried to hack the security systems about 20 minutes ago." "During the ship alert?" "Yes, sir." The timing suggests it was a coordinated distraction. Varek's predatory instincts kicked in a high gear. Someone had used the emergency to access classified information. And there was only one person on the station who had shown unusual capabilities. "Issue a station-wide alert. I want Marcus Chun found and brought in for questioning immediately." "Sir, he's not in the mining levels." Supervisor Brutus reports he never showed up for his assigned shift. Varek's claws extended involuntarily. The hunt was on. "Lock down the station. No one enters or leaves without my authorization. Begin a deck-by-deck search. And activate the internal defense systems. Throughout Kepler 7, blast doors sealed shut. Emergency barriers dropped across corridors. Armed security teams began sweeping through every section of the massive facility. They were looking for one small human who had somehow managed to infiltrate their most secure areas. But what they would find would be far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. In a storage room on Archive Level 3, Marcus was making final preparations. He had retrieved additional equipment from hidden compartments in his gear, revealing tools and weapons that no ordinary miner would possess. When the security teams finally found him, they would discover that their assumptions about humans had been very, very wrong. The lone human they had underestimated was about to show them exactly what apex predators looked like when they stopped pretending to be harmless. Security Chief Varek moved through the station corridors like a living weapon. His Saurian heritage had given him enhanced senses that could track prey across vast distances. Every step was calculated, every movement designed for maximum efficiency in hunting down his target. Behind him followed a team of the station's most experienced security officers, Krogans with their massive strength and natural armor, Thorians with their forearms and advanced tactical awareness, Vex soldiers with their ability to see in multiple spectrums of light, all of them hunting for one human. Thermal scans show no heat signatures in Section, reported Officer Jean, a Thorian whose upper arms carried advanced sensors while his lower arms held plasma rifles. Moving to Section B now. Varek's forked tongue tasted the air, analyzing chemical traces that his prey might have left behind. Human scent was distinctive to his species: warm blood, specific pheromones, the unique biochemistry of Earth-evolved mammals. "He's been here recently," Varek said, stopping outside a maintenance access panel. Within the last 30 minutes, the access panel had been opened and closed with professional precision. No damage, no obvious signs of entry. But Varek's enhanced senses could detect the microscopic traces that the human had left behind. How could he know about these maintenance passages? Officer Grack asked. The massive Krogan's scarred face showed confusion and growing anger. "Station schematics are classified information." "Good question," Varek replied grimly. "When we catch him, we'll ask." In the storage room where Marcus was hiding, sophisticated sensors detected the approaching security team. Their body heat, their electromagnetic signatures, even their individual heartbeat patterns were revealed by the scanning equipment he had activated. 8 officers, all armed with military-grade weapons, led by a Saurian whose enhanced senses would make hiding extremely difficult. They were 30 meters away and closing fast. Marcus opened his equipment case and began assembling tools that would have shocked anyone watching. What had appeared to be simple mining gear was actually a collection of advanced military hardware, disguised to pass casual inspection. The plasma cutter he had used in the mines was actually a military-grade energy weapon. His protective gear contained armor plating that could stop small arms fire, and his scanner was a tactical intelligence system that could analyze enemy capabilities in real time. But the most impressive item was a device that looked like an ordinary communicator. When activated, it projected a holographic display showing the complete layout of Kepler 7, including security positions, weapon emplacements, and structural weak points. Marcus had been mapping the station since the moment he arrived. "Contact Earth Command," he whispered into his communicator. "Priority Alpha transmission. Authorization code Omega 77. The response came immediately. "Earth Command receiving." "Go ahead, Agent Marcus." "Intelligence gathered confirms hostile alien coalition planning coordinated attack on human colonies. Attack scheduled to commence in 13 days. Recommend immediate defensive preparations." "Understood. Can you verify the source of this intelligence?" "Data retrieved from classified alien military archives. Source is reliable. Requesting immediate extraction. Negative on extraction. Station is under lockdown with heavy security presence. You're on your own until situation changes." Marcus closed the communication and checked his weapons. If Earth Command couldn't extract him, he would have to find another way off the station. But first, he had to survive the next few minutes. The security team had reached his corridor. Varek paused outside the storage room door, his senses telling him that something was wrong. The human scent was strongest here, but there was something else. a metallic smell that reminded him of weapons being prepared for combat. "Target is inside," he signaled to his team. "Be ready for anything." The door was locked, but Thorian Officer Jun made quick work of the electronic systems with his upper arms while keeping his weapons ready with his lower arms. The lock clicked open, and the team prepared to breach the room. What they expected to find was a frightened human miner, possibly armed with makeshift weapons, probably ready to surrender when confronted by overwhelming force. What they found instead changed everything they thought they knew about humans. The storage room was empty except for archive data units, and a single human sitting calmly in the center of the space. Marcus had his hands visible and appeared to be unarmed. But somehow, the security team felt like they had just walked into a trap. "Marcus Chin," Varek said, his rifle trained on the human. "You're under arrest for unauthorized access to classified information." "I was wondering when you'd find me," Marcus replied calmly. "Took you longer than I expected." The casual tone in his voice sent warning signals through every alien in the room. This wasn't how terrified prisoners were supposed to act. "Stand up slowly and put your hands behind your head," Varek ordered. Marcus complied, rising smoothly to his feet. But as he moved, the security team noticed things that made them deeply uncomfortable. The human's muscles moved with the controlled precision of someone trained for combat. His eyes tracked each officer's position with the awareness of a tactical specialist. And despite being outnumbered 8-1, he showed no signs of fear. "You've caused a lot of trouble for a simple miner," Varek said. "Mining was just a cover identity," Marcus replied. "My real job is a bit more complicated." "What real job?" Marcus smiled, and for the first time since entering the room, the security officers felt genuine unease. "I'm what humans call a special operations agent. My mission here was intelligence gathering. Unfortunately, what I found means I can't just disappear quietly anymore." Officer Grack laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "One human against an entire station? You've got more courage than sense, little mammal." "Actually, I've got something better than courage. I've got information that's going to save both our species from making a terrible mistake." Before anyone could respond to that cryptic statement, Marcus moved. What happened next took less than 3 seconds, but it demonstrated capabilities that shocked every alien in the room. Marcus threw himself sideways behind a stack of data storage units, just as lights throughout the section began flashing red. Emergency alarms blared through the station as automated systems detected what they classified as hostile weapons fire. But the security team hadn't fired their weapons yet. "What's happening?" Jean demanded, his 4 arms tracking different angles while trying to maintain visual contact with their target. "Station-wide security breach," came the voice of station manager Karath through their communicators. "We have multiple unauthorized access attempts on critical systems. All security teams return to primary defensive positions immediately." Varek's predatory instinct screamed that this was connected to the human somehow. "Negative. We have the target cornered. Requesting backup to maintain." His words were cut off as the lights in the storage room died completely. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, but in that brief period of darkness, everything changed. When the lights returned, Marcus was gone. "Impossible," Brack snarled, his rifle sweeping the room. "There's nowhere to hide in here." But a careful examination revealed that one of the wall panels had been removed and replaced so quickly that they hadn't heard the sound. The human had vanished into the station's infrastructure like he had planned this exact scenario. Varek examined the panel and found microscopic tool marks that spoke of professional-level infiltration skills. This wasn't random. He knew exactly where that access point was located. How could he know our station layout that well? Jean asked. Because he's been mapping it since he arrived, Varek realized. The mining assignments, the rescue operation, everything he's done has been intelligence gathering. Through their communicators, they could hear reports from throughout the station. Security systems were being accessed from multiple points simultaneously. Someone was systematically disabling defensive measures while creating diversions that scattered security response. "Sir, came the voice of Officer Vox from the main security office. We're showing unauthorized access to the communications array, the power distribution system, and the docking bay controls. Whoever is doing this has advanced knowledge of our systems. Varek understood with growing dread that they weren't hunting a simple saboteur. They were facing someone who had been planning this operation for weeks, possibly months. All teams converge on the main computer core, he ordered. If he wants to damage the station, that's where he'll strike next. But Marcus wasn't heading for the computer core. He was moving through maintenance shafts toward the communications array, carrying the stolen intelligence that could prevent a war. His extraction team had been wrong about one thing. There was a way off the station, but it required taking control of long-range communications to signal for pickup. And that meant accessing the array while avoiding the security teams that were now hunting him with deadly intent. As he crawled through the narrow passages, Marcus activated devices he had placed throughout the station over the past few days. Each one was designed to create the appearance of multiple intruders, overwhelming the security response and making it impossible to track his real location. The aliens thought they were hunting one human. In reality, they were chasing shadows while the real threat moved unseen toward his objective. In the main computer core, Karath waited with a full security detail. The massive Rex had armed himself with a plasma cannon capable of destroying heavy military vehicles. If the human infiltrator wanted to attack the station's critical systems, he would have to go through Karath personally. Status report, he demanded as Varek's team arrived. Target escaped from Archive Level 3. He's using knowledge of station infrastructure to evade capture. Sir, this isn't just a miner. This is a trained military operative. Karatha's yellow eyes blazed with fury. Human military? What would Earth want with our mining operation? Unknown. But he mentioned something about preventing both our species from making a terrible mistake. What did he mean by that? Before Varek could speculate, alarms began blaring from the communications section. Someone had accessed the long-range transmission array. Marcus reached the communications array just as security teams began converging on the computer core. The chamber was smaller than he had expected, filled with sophisticated equipment that could send messages across hundreds of light years. But it was also defended by automated systems that activated the moment he entered. Energy barriers snapped into place, sealing the exits. Defensive turrets emerged from hidden compartments, their targeting systems locking onto his position. A synthetic voice announced that unauthorized personnel should surrender immediately or face lethal force. Marcus ignored the warnings and began connecting his equipment to the communications array. He had less than 2 minutes before security teams would reach his location, and the message he needed to send was complex. The defensive turrets opened fire. Marcus moved like liquid lightning, dodging energy blasts that could have vaporized him instantly. His training had included scenarios exactly like this, operating in hostile environments while under fire from automated weapons. But the real challenge wasn't avoiding the turrets. It was completing his data upload while the station's security systems tried to kill him. His quantum processor connected to the communications array and began transmitting. The stolen intelligence flowed through space toward Earth, carrying warnings about the planned alien attack and detailed information about enemy capabilities. But the transmission also contained something else. Personal codes that would identify Marcus to Earth Command and reveal his true mission status. Agent Marcus Chun wasn't just a special operations officer. He was one of Earth's most elite deep cover specialists, trained to infiltrate alien societies and gather intelligence that could prevent interstellar wars. And his mission on Kepler 7 had just uncovered the beginning of what could become the largest conflict in human history. The upload completed just as security teams reached the communications chamber. Through the sealed barriers, Marcus could see Varek and his hunters preparing to breach the room. But he wasn't finished yet. Marcus activated a final device, one that would change the entire dynamic of the situation. Throughout the station, speakers crackled to life as he accessed the public address system. Attention all personnel of Mining Station Kepler 7. My name is Agent Marcus Chun, Earth Special Operations. I have information that affects the security of this station and everyone on it. In the corridor outside, the security team stopped their assault preparations. Through the station, workers paused in their duties to listen to the humans' words. Over the past several days, I have been investigating intelligence that suggested this station was involved in hostile activities against Earth colonies. What I discovered was far worse than anyone suspected. Karatha's voice boomed through the station communication system. Human, surrender immediately. You're under arrest for espionage and sabotage. Manager Karath, Marcus continued calmly. I suggest you review the files I'm about to transmit to your personal console. What you'll find is evidence that this station has been infiltrated by hostile alien intelligence services. You and your crew are not the perpetrators of the planned attacks on human colonies. You're being set up as the scapegoats. The words sent shock waves through the station. Workers from dozens of alien species began talking at once, demanding to know what was happening. Marcus transmitted a portion of the stolen files to Karatha's console, enough to prove the truth of his statements without revealing classified human intelligence. What Karath saw made his blood run cold. The file showed that several hostile alien governments had been secretly monitoring Kepler 7 for months. They had planted agents among the station personnel and were using the mining operation as cover for intelligence gathering against Earth. But the most damning evidence was a detailed plan for false flag operations. After the attack on human colonies, evidence would be planted to make it look like Kepler 7 had been the staging area for the assault. The station would be destroyed by retaliatory human forces, eliminating all witnesses and providing justification for a larger war. Karath and his crew weren't co-conspirators. They were intended victims. This is impossible, Karath said through gritted teeth. Why would you help us? Marcus's voice came through the speakers with absolute conviction. Because humans don't start wars by murdering innocent people. We prevent wars by exposing the truth. Through the station, the impact of his words was immediate. Alien workers who had spent years believing that humans were weak and untrustworthy began to reconsider their assumptions. And in the communications chamber, Marcus began the most dangerous part of his mission, convincing his enemies to become his allies in preventing a war that would destroy them all. The defensive turrets had stopped firing, their targeting systems confused by the changing situation. But Marcus knew that the real test was just beginning. Outside the chamber, Varek and his team were receiving new orders from Karath. Orders that would either result in Marcus's execution or his recognition as the ally they never knew they needed. The next few minutes would determine whether the galaxy moved toward war or toward an alliance that could prevent the greatest catastrophe in interstellar history. And it all depended on whether the aliens could overcome their prejudices about humans quickly enough to recognize the truth when they saw it. The silence that followed Marcus's revelation stretched across Kepler 7 like a held breath. In corridors throughout the station, workers had stopped what they were doing to listen to the impossible conversation between the human infiltrator and their station manager. Karath stared at the files on his console, his massive frame trembling with rage. But the anger wasn't directed at Marcus. It was focused on the realization that he and his crew had been manipulated, used as pawns in a scheme that would have resulted in their deaths. Security Chief Varek, he said through the communication system, his voice deadly calm. Stand down your weapons. Sir, Varek's confusion was evident even through the static of the comm system. I said stand down. The human is not our enemy. In the communications chamber, Marcus could hear the security team outside arguing among themselves. Years of training had taught them that humans were inferior, weak creatures who couldn't be trusted. But the evidence Karath had shared with them was undeniable. This could be an elaborate deception, Officer Grax suggested, his Krogan voice heavy with suspicion. Humans are known for their cunning. Yes, we are, Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly through the sealed chamber. But we're also known for something else. When we make allies, we keep them. When we give our word, we honor it. And when innocent people are in danger, we protect them. Varek's reptilian features showed the internal struggle he was experiencing. Everything about this situation violated his understanding of how the galaxy worked. Humans weren't supposed to be capable of the kind of operation Marcus had conducted. They weren't supposed to have intelligence services sophisticated enough to uncover alien conspiracies. And they certainly weren't supposed to risk their own lives to save alien civilians. Agent Chun. Karatha's voice came through the speakers. I'm prepared to discuss a temporary ceasefire. But I need more information. How do we know your intelligence is accurate? Because I've been tracking the hostile agents on your station for the past 3 days, Marcus replied. I can give you their names, their positions, and the evidence of their activities. But first, I need your guarantee that you'll help me get this information to Earth Command. And why should we trust Earth with information about our operations? Because in 13 days, when the attack begins, the hostile coalition will blame this station for the assault. Earth's response will be swift and overwhelming. Everyone on Kepler 7 will die unless we can prove the truth. The weight of his words settled over the station like a physical force. Workers throughout the facility began to understand that they weren't just witnesses to a spy thriller. They were potential victims of an interstellar war that could begin at any moment. Karath made his decision. Varek disengaged the security barriers. Escort Agent Chun to the main conference room. Use full honors protocol. Sir, are you certain about this? No, but I'm more certain about the alternative. If he's telling the truth, cooperating with him might be the only way to save this station. The energy barriers around Marcus dissolved, and the defensive turrets retracted into their hidden compartments. Security Chief Varek entered the chamber with his team, but their weapons were lowered and their postures had shifted from aggressive to cautious. Agent Chun, Varek said formally. Station Manager Karath requests your presence in the main conference room for discussion of mutual security concerns. Marcus gathered his equipment and followed the security team through corridors filled with staring aliens. Word of the situation had spread throughout Kepler 7, and workers pressed against the walls to get a look at the human who had somehow infiltrated their most secure areas. But the stares weren't filled with the contempt he had experienced when he first arrived. Now there was curiosity, confusion, and something that might have been respect. The main conference room was designed to host meetings between station management and visiting officials from across the galaxy. It was large enough to accommodate representatives from species with vastly different physical requirements, with adjustable atmosphere and gravity controls. Karath waited at the head of a massive table, his yellow eyes fixed on Marcus as the human entered. Around the table sat the station's senior staff, department heads, security officers, and technical specialists representing a dozen different species. Agent Chun, Karath said formally, please take a seat. We have much to discuss. Marcus sat in a chair designed for human proportions, one of the few concessions the station made to accommodate Earth-evolved visitors. As he settled into place, he could feel the weight of alien attention focused on him. Before we begin, Karath continued, I want to make something clear to everyone in this room. The evidence Agent Chun has provided suggests that hostile forces have infiltrated our station with the goal of framing U.S. for war crimes. If his intelligence is accurate, our cooperation with Earth may be the only way to prevent our destruction. Chief Engineer Vex, the brilliant Ziltharian who had questioned Marcus's abilities during the rescue operation, spoke up. How do we verify the accuracy of his claims? For all we know, this could be an elaborate human intelligence operation designed to gain access to our systems. Marcus activated his portable display unit and projected a three-dimensional map of the station. Red indicators marked specific locations throughout the facility. There are 7 hostile agents currently aboard Kepler 7, he said calmly. I can give you their names, their cover identities, and the locations where they've hidden surveillance equipment and sabotage devices. The map showed detailed information that shocked everyone in the room. Hidden cameras in supposedly secure areas. Explosive devices concealed in critical systems. communication equipment that had been modified to transmit data to hostile forces. You found all of this in just 4 days? Vex asked, his multifaceted eyes wide with disbelief. I've been looking for it specifically. Earth intelligence has been tracking hostile activities throughout this sector for months. We knew something was happening, but we couldn't prove it until I gathered evidence from your archives. Mine supervisor Brutus leaned forward, his scarred Krogan features showing growing understanding. That's why you were so skilled at the rescue operation. You weren't just a miner with unusual abilities. You were a trained operative gathering intelligence. Every job I've taken on this station was designed to give me access to different areas and systems. The mining work let me study your infrastructure. The rescue operation allowed me to demonstrate capabilities that would get your attention. And the security investigation gave me cover to access your archives. Karatha's massive hands clenched into fists. You've been manipulating us from the moment you arrived. Yes, Marcus said without hesitation. But not for the reasons you think. My original mission was to determine whether Kepler-7 was a threat to human colonies. What I discovered is that you're victims of the same conspiracy we are. Security Chief Varek studied the projected map with professional interest. If these agent locations are accurate, we can verify your claims within hours. But what happens after we confirm the truth? How does exposing this conspiracy prevent the war you mentioned? Marcus pulled up another display, this one showing stellar maps and fleet positions throughout the sector. The hostile coalition has been positioning forces for months, claiming they're conducting routine military exercises. But the formations and timing suggest they're preparing for coordinated strikes against human colonies. The attacks will begin in 13 days, during the conjunction of Kepler-7 with the Centauri trade routes. Why does the timing matter? Asked Communication Officer Nex, an insectoid Mantari whose compound eyes could process multiple data streams simultaneously. Because the conjunction provides cover for the coalition fleet to approach human space without being detected until it's too late. And it gives them a justification for destroying this station afterward. They can claim you were providing intelligence and support for the attack. The implications of Marcus's words sank in around the table. Every alien in the room realized that they had been marked for death by forces they had never suspected existed. Karath was the first to speak. What do you propose we do about this situation? We work together to expose the conspiracy before the attacks begin. I transmit the complete intelligence package to Earth Command, warning them about the coming assault. You help me identify and capture the hostile agents on your station. And together, we provide evidence that proves the true nature of this plot. And if Earth Command doesn't believe the evidence, if they assume this is all an elaborate deception, Marcus met Karatha's gaze directly. Then, we're all dead anyway. But humans have a saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Right now, we're facing the same enemies. Chief Engineer Vex activated his own analysis systems, studying the data Marcus had provided. The technical specifications in your intelligence files are accurate. The modifications to our systems, the hidden surveillance equipment, everything matches our own internal monitoring data. But there's something else. What? Some of these modifications were made months ago, long before you arrived on the station. Whoever planned this operation has been working on it for a very long time. Marcus nodded grimly. The Coalition has been planning this war for over a year. They've identified what they believe are weaknesses in human defenses, and they prepared false evidence to justify the conflict. But they made one critical mistake, which is they underestimated humans. They assumed we wouldn't be able to detect their infiltration or uncover their plans. They thought our intelligence services were primitive compared to their own. Brutus laughed, the sound echoing through the conference room. Sounds like the same mistake we all made about you. Exactly. The galaxy has spent so long viewing humans as inferior that nobody expected us to develop capabilities that rival or exceed their own. It's the perfect cover for intelligence operations. Karath leaned back in his massive chair, processing everything he had heard. Agent Shun, if we agree to cooperate with you, what guarantees do we have that Earth won't use this situation to gain advantage over our species? You have my word, Marcus replied simply. The word of one human against the interests of your entire species. The word of one human who has just demonstrated that he was willing to risk his life to warn you about a plot against your station. I could have completed my original mission and disappeared. Instead, I'm here asking for your help to prevent a war. The truth of his statement was undeniable. Marcus had revealed himself when he could have remained hidden. He had warned them about threats to their safety when he could have simply protected human interests. Security Chief Varek made a decision that surprised everyone in the room. I believe him, the Saurian said, his predatory features showing conviction. Everything about his behavior suggests someone committed to preventing unnecessary death, not causing it. One by one, the other department heads voiced their agreement. The evidence was too compelling, the threat too immediate, and the alternative too catastrophic to ignore. Karath stood, his massive frame dominating the conference room. Agent Chun, Kepler, 7 Station accepts your proposal for cooperation. What do you need from us? Marcus activated his communication equipment and began composing the most important message of his career. First, I need unrestricted access to your long-range communication array to transmit complete intelligence to Earth Command. Second, I need your security teams to help me capture the hostile agents before they realize their cover is blown. And third, I need your testimony as witnesses to present to both Earth and the Galactic Council. Agreed. But I have one condition. Name it. When this is over, when the conspiracy is exposed, and the war is prevented, I want full disclosure about human intelligence capabilities. No more pretending to be weak and primitive. If we're going to be allies, we need to understand what we're allying with. Marcus smiled for the first time since entering the conference room. Fair enough. But you might be surprised by what you learn about humans. As the meeting broke up and teams formed to implement their joint operation, none of the aliens realized just how right Marcus was about surprises. They were about to discover that everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. And in the coming days, as they worked together to prevent an interstellar war, they would learn why the galaxy's greatest predators had evolved not just to hunt, but to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The real revelation of human nature was just beginning. The capture operation began at dawn, station time. Marcus had provided detailed intelligence on each hostile agent, their locations, their equipment, and their communication schedules. Security teams moved through Kepler 7 with precision that impressed even the human operative watching their progress. The first target was Agent Zek, a Romulan posing as a maintenance worker in the power distribution section. Security Chief Varek's team found him exactly where Marcus had predicted, trying to install additional surveillance equipment in the main power coupling. Zek offered no resistance when confronted. He simply smiled and activated a small device attached to his wrist. Too late, he said calmly. The signal has already been sent. Varek's blood ran cold. What signal? My handlers know their operation has been compromised. The timeline has been moved up. The attack begins in 3 days, not 13. In the communications chamber, Marcus received the update from Varek and immediately began composing an emergency transmission to Earth Command. 3 days wasn't enough time for a conventional defensive response, but humans had other options. As he worked, more reports came in from the capture teams. They had taken 6 of the 7 hostile agents, but the last one had escaped. Worse, evidence suggested that the escaped agent had been the operation commander, carrying critical intelligence about Earth defensive capabilities. Agent Chun, Karatha's voice came through the communication system. We have a problem. Agent Vorthak, a Cardassian posing as our communications officer, accessed our long-range sensor array before disappearing. He downloaded complete intelligence on ship movements throughout this sector. Marcus paused in his transmission to Earth Command. Vorthak's intelligence would give the hostile coalition critical advantages in planning their attack routes. The situation had just become exponentially more dangerous. Where would he go? Marcus asked. Unknown. He had access to small craft maintenance schedules, could have stolen a ship, and escaped to rendezvous with coalition forces. Marcus made a decision that would define the rest of the operation. I'm going after him. Agent Chun, that's suicide. You don't know where he's headed, and even if you found him, a single human against a military operative, Chief Varek, Marcus interrupted, there are things about human capabilities that you still don't understand. With respect, now isn't the time for explanations. Marcus gathered his equipment and headed for the docking bays. But first, he made one more transmission to Earth Command, not a request for instructions, but a notification of actions he was about to take. Earth Command, Agent Marcus reporting. Hostile timeline accelerated. Enemy commander escaped with critical intelligence. Initiating pursuit and interdiction. Request immediate deployment of deep space assets to coordinates I'm transmitting. If interdiction fails, recommend full defensive protocols for all human colonies. The response was immediate. Agent Marcus, you are not authorized for independent field operations of this magnitude. Return to extraction point and await further orders. Marcus closed the communication channel and continued toward the docking bay. Sometimes the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure came down to an individual's willingness to exceed their authority. The docking bay was busy with routine traffic, cargo haulers bringing supplies, transport ships carrying personnel between stations. Marcus studied the departure schedules on his scanner and identified 3 ships that had left in the past hour. One was a registered cargo vessel heading toward the inner systems. Another was a transport shuttle on a routine personnel run. The third was listed as a maintenance craft conducting equipment surveys in the asteroid field. Marcus's scanner detected unusual energy signatures from the maintenance craft's departure, signatures that matched advanced military communication equipment. Vorthak was trying to contact his handlers while staying close enough to monitor Kepler-7's response to the blown operation. Marcus requisitioned a single-seat fighter from the station's defensive fleet, using authorization codes that Karath had provided for the joint operation. The small craft was fast and maneuverable, designed for patrol duties around the mining station. As he powered up the fighter systems, Marcus activated capabilities that would have shocked the aliens watching his departure. The simple patrol craft sensors were suddenly enhanced by military-grade targeting systems. Its communication array connected to networks that most species didn't know existed, and its pilot began flying with skills that exceeded anything in standard patrol training. Kepler-7 Control, this is Agent Chun requesting departure clearance. Agent Chun, came the voice of flight controllers in. Sensors show you've modified your fighter systems. What kind of equipment are you carrying? The kind that might prevent a war. Marcus launched from the docking bay and immediately began scanning the asteroid field. Vorthak's craft was designed for stealth, but human sensors had been developed to counter exactly that kind of technology. Within minutes, Marcus located the enemy agent's ship hidden behind a large asteroid. Vorthak was indeed transmitting to his handlers, sending detailed intelligence about Kepler-7's defenses and Earth's probable response to the accelerated attack timeline. But he was also doing something else. Long-range sensors showed him planting some kind of device on the asteroid itself. Marcus realized what was happening just in time. Vorthak was setting up a false evidence trail. When the attack began and Kepler-7 was destroyed in retaliation, investigators would find the device and conclude that the mining station had been supporting hostile operations all along. The conspiracy was even more elaborate than anyone had suspected. Marcus opened a communication channel to Vorthak's craft. Cardassian vessel, this is Earth Agent Marcus Chun. You're under arrest for espionage and conspiracy to commit acts of war. Vorthak's response was immediate. Weapons fire from concealed military systems that turned his maintenance craft into a combat vessel capable of destroying heavy fighters. But Marcus was no longer pretending to be an ordinary human. The dogfight that followed would be analyzed by military tacticians for years afterward. Vorthak was a trained military pilot with superior weapons and a more heavily armored craft. By every conventional measure, he should have easily destroyed the human's lighter fighter. Instead, Marcus flew like no alien had ever seen a human fly. His fighter moved through the asteroid field like it was dancing, using gravitational effects and space debris in ways that defied conventional tactics. Every maneuver was perfectly calculated, every shot precisely aimed, every defensive action timed to the microsecond. Vorthak found himself fighting not just a pilot, but a three-dimensional chess master who was thinking 6 moves ahead of every action. Impossible. Vorthak snarled over the communication channel. Humans don't have this kind of training. You've been underestimating humans for a long time. Marcus replied calmly, his fighter executing a maneuver that should have torn it apart, but instead positioned him perfectly for a disabling shot. Time you learned why that's a mistake. Marcus's next shot disabled Vorthak's weapons and engines without destroying the craft. The Cardassian found himself drifting helpless in space, unable to complete his mission or escape to warn his handlers. Ow! Was all Vorthak could manage. Because while your people have been dismissing humans as primitive, we've been developing capabilities that you never imagined. We learned long ago that being underestimated is the greatest tactical advantage in the galaxy. Marcus secured Vorthak's craft with a tractor beam and began the return.